research shows that about 99% of people have variants in their DNA that can affect their response to medication. That means that all of us, nearly everyone, has some level of risk of experiencing adverse drug reactions or events, and in some cases, potentially life-threatening consequences if their doctor prescribes a med that's not right for them.
Welcome to Science with a Twist, a podcast for curious people who enjoy exploring how science impacts our daily lives. From technology that helps the fight against COVID-19 to solutions that help clean the water we drink, it's all thanks to science. In each episode, members of Thermo Fisher's scientific team talk to experts who are on the cutting edge of redefining how we exist. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome back to Science with a Twist, a podcast brought to you by Thermo Fisher Scientific. My name is Jami Elliott, and I lead strategic initiatives for genetic testing solutions, a business unit within Genetic Sciences Division. And as part of my role, I work cross-functionally to help our BU identify new segments to develop clinical products for, and I also assist with efforts in understanding reimbursement and clinical utility for our products globally. On this episode of Science with a Twist, I'm honored to be joined by Jeff Shaman, Chief Scientific Officer from Coriell Life Sciences. Coriell Life Sciences is a precision medicine genetics company utilizing genetic science and research to improve lives, reduce healthcare costs, and simplify decision-making for their customers throughout the United States and around the world. Coriell delivers actionable interpretation and reporting informed by genetic testing, demographic data, lifestyle factors, and real-time modeling. Their approach to precision medicine with genetics empowers healthcare providers, pharmacists, laboratories, and participants to embrace personalized knowledge for more effective medical care. Today on Science with a Twist, we'll be discussing the role pharmacogenetics can play in precision medicine and the adoption into standard of care. We'll talk about what key factors have occurred in precision medicine to get us where we are today, and what the future looks like for pharmacogenetics, oncology, and precision medicine overall. Hi, Jeff, and welcome. Can you start off by discussing your role at Coriell and touch briefly on what personalized medicine and pharmacogenetics are?
Absolutely. Hi, Jamie. It's great to be here with you today, as always. I'm excited to join you in helping folks understand where our healthcare system is headed with new DNA sequencing and genotyping technologies like those from Thermo Fisher Scientific, and how we turn those genetic A's, T's, G's, and C's, that genotyping data that comes off of those machines, into medically relevant and clinically useful information. In my role, I support teams that continuously take good science and make it comprehensible and scalable to healthcare systems, providers, and patients to improve their health and well-being, but really also to address the challenges that we all understand as patients and people in the US, those of accessibility and cost. We do this here by directly delivering precision medicine, and more specifically through pharmacogenomics and comprehensive medication management. So that's a lot of words, but precision medicine is a field that really holds great promise for improving healthcare outcomes by tailoring medical treatments to the individual characteristics of each patient. It's an innovative approach to healthcare that takes into account individual variability in genes and environment and lifestyle factors when tailoring these medical treatments. So unlike that traditional one-size-fits-all model that we're all kind of used to, the one that, the idea of take 2 of these and call me in the morning, precision medicine really instead acknowledges that each person is unique and recognizes the complex interplay of genetics and non-genetic information like environment and lifestyle factors to determine health outcomes. Pharmacogenomics itself is the study of how genes affect a person's response to medications by combining pharmacology, the study of drugs, and genomics, the study of genes and their function. By understanding how genetic makeup affects drug response, healthcare providers can prescribe the right medication and dosage with less trial and error or trial and failure, therefore improving treatment effectiveness and reducing side effects. PGX is used clinically to improve prescribing in various medical fields such as mental health, oncology, that neoplastic and cancer space that you mentioned, cardiology, pain management, endocrinology, and even neurology. And we've known about PGX for centuries. There's a story of Pythagoras, right? Greek times, centuries and centuries ago, running from a group of soldiers and stopping right in front of a fava bean field. Ostensibly, he was afraid of what we now know is called favism, where people exposed to fava beans can actually die. What we've learned in those centuries since is that's associated with a specific gene that also metabolizes medications. So we've known about pharmacogenomics, PGX, for centuries, and now we're seeing it being able to be used in the clinic in a scalable fashion.
Yeah. Excellent background, Jeff, and thanks for the context. So maybe you could pick one of the areas or one of the indicated areas that you mentioned and help the listeners to better understand how clinicians and medical providers can improve patient treatment and outcomes, and how could medication management play a role in this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there are a lot of opportunities in this space for precision medicine and personalized medicine to be used, right? There can be personalized prevention, improved diagnosis, enhanced drug development, patient-centric care and targeted treatment, again in the oncology space. But what I spend much of my time engaged in is that increased efficacy and safety of medications, the pharmacogenomic piece. That precision medicine enables healthcare providers to target specific disease mechanisms and their pathways, leading to more effective and personalized treatments. But by understanding that an individual, a patient's genetic predispositions and their molecular profiles, those healthcare professionals can select the right therapy that's more likely to succeed and minimize those adverse reactions. So what we know, research shows that about 99% of people have variants in their DNA that can affect their response to medication. That means that all of us, nearly everyone, has some level of risk of experiencing adverse drug reactions or events, and in some cases, potentially life-threatening consequences if their doctor prescribes a med that's not right for them. However, these gene-drug interactions, as we call them, aren't routinely factored into healthcare decisions, which can be a missed opportunity for everybody involved, everybody from the healthcare system down to the patient. So pharmacogenomics, that PGX testing, has emerged as a way to avoid these events and to help patients and their healthcare providers to find the most appropriate drugs in a more timely and efficient manner. Now we don't have that trial and error. We don't have to wait 6 or 8 weeks to see an antidepressant, whether it's going to work or not. So said another way, we can prescribe the same medication and dose to different people and get totally different outcomes on these genetics. So I can give some examples. About 4.3 million people in the US take a medication called Clopidogrel. Clopidogrel is a drug we give to keep a stent open. A stent is a little straw we put in their heart if they're at risk of having a heart attack or have just had a heart attack, and the idea is to keep the blood flowing through the heart. Now, you also want to keep that blood thin so it runs through that heart nice and smoothly, and we give many of our patients something we call Clopidogrel. Now, Clopidogrel is known as a prodrug. On its own, it's not active. It doesn't do anything. But the body, human bodies, actually activate it and turn it into the active medication. And we know the pathway, the metabolic pathway, the pharmacogenomics of how that works. What happens is if you don't have, or if you've got a certain variant in your DNA, Clopidogrel doesn't work. Now, that means that, it's not a headache or a bellyache or one of these kind of side effects, but instead, it's a second cardiovascular event. It's a second heart attack or a second stroke. We absolutely want to avoid that. And the reason we're talking about pharmacogenomics is because we can avoid these bad outcomes. We can do a DNA test to avoid it. Another drug you may have heard about are statins, or a class of medications. And these are to lower cholesterol in patients. And about 35 million people in the US are taking a statin. Over 200 million people worldwide. So the side effect is muscle aches and pains. And we know that these patients who have these issues then aren't getting out of bed. They're not active. They're depressed. It precipitates all of these other issues. So if about a third of the patients taking Clopidogrel can't turn it into the active metabolite, and millions of people on statins could feel better if we put them on the right drug, which may not be the statin they're currently taking. And this is a simple DNA test. We need to do this, right? We need to provide ways to improve the way that doctors and medical providers treat us and our patients as individuals, moving towards that more patient-centric and personalized approach to healthcare. That it also, it means recognizing the complexity of human health. This isn't easy, but to make sure to integrate personalized data, advancements in genetic and genome research, and clinical decision support tools that make these complex interactions much more scalable. And the professionals like pharmacists and doctors that are experts at these interactions between medication and medicine, part of it. So the way I look at it, the more information that's available to the healthcare provider, the more precise our treatments can be. And that's why we add pharmacogenomics to our comprehensive medication management program. And that's why, even in the oncology space, there are medications that are targeted directly towards variants that are present, let's say in a non-small cell lung carcinoma. There are variants that if it's present, you'll give this drug. And if it's not present, you have this set of drugs. That's the information we want available.
Excellent. And thank you. You've provided some great examples for use cases in pharmacogenetics, and certainly not ones where the medication use is by any means confined to a small population. So we've gotten to this point. You've made a clear articulation of the case for the use of pharmacogenetics, but my understanding is that there's been a real challenge with adoption. It's been quite lumpy. And then you add medication management onto it, the set of tools that Coriell and others have developed to help with the implementation of pharmacogenetics and help show the value of pharmacogenetics in the context of an overall medication management program. What are the barriers to this becoming more widely adopted?
Yeah, it's a good point, and I like the term lumpy because that's what this is, right? We've seen this. You and I have been in this field for, I hate to say it, but decades now, and we've seen it be very lumpy. But what's really fun, at least for me, is seeing it become widely or more widely adopted now, and that's not just in the US, that's worldwide. But for that to happen, pharmacogenomics really needed to hit a level of maturity that allowed for the scalability that we've been talking about. And that includes reaching this threshold of maturity in several points, including clinical utility, laboratory technologies, user acceptance, both on the side of the healthcare provider and the patient, implementation models, and economic value. And it was that last one, economic value, I think that was one of the most recent barriers to fall. We at Coriell Life Sciences published what is the largest study to date of its kind, reporting on outcomes from the implementation of a pharmacogenomic-enriched comprehensive medication management program. And that was done with the state retirement system, the state of Kentucky. In that, we evaluated the clinical and economic outcomes of just over 5,200 members that voluntarily enrolled in the program, and we compared them directly to their peers in that retirement system that didn't enroll. And what was really exciting is that program, the pharmacogenomics tethered directly with comprehensive medication management, decreased their healthcare costs by over $218 per member per month. Now, I'm not great at math, so we've got good data scientists here who help me understand what that exactly means. That's over $37 million in the 32 months that we tracked the data. And we did this by positively impacting healthcare resource utilization. That is, cost reductions, that driving down, that $218 per member per month, was largely driven by decreases in emergency department visits and inpatient hospitalizations, and really by more appropriate medication selection. I think additionally, you got a question?
No, go ahead, please.
Additionally, for greater adoption, We really needed to see a testing infrastructure expand. And it's something that Thermo Fisher Scientific and others are doing. But interestingly, that the same technologies that could be used for COVID-19 detection can actually be used for pharmacogenomics detection. So some of those barriers were just getting testing. Now these instruments are out there. And combined with an increased public awareness of the value of genome-informed decision-making, our healthcare insurance market now embraces pharmacogenomic testing, ensuring that patients are getting the right meds at the right time. So with all of that, PGX is really poised to be the standard of care and become more widely adopted.
So you've covered off on two important areas that I was going to ask about. One is in reference to the study that Coriell has published. You've made a compelling argument for why people really need to care about this. And I think you've also really addressed the question around barriers that are still yet to be overcome. You brought up scalability, infrastructure and personnel, and certainly educated folks, pharmacists and the like that you would need to scale these programs. I believe I understand that, current policy, certainly at the governmental level, is in reactive testing. And I think there's a discussion about how we could get to preemptive testing at some point in the future. With that, where do you see the future of precision medicine and PGX in that context? And, how do you see the field evolving?
Yeah, I think it's a good point to make the difference between reactive and proactive testing. You're right that the reimbursement field is in that space of reactive testing. What they say is, have you tried medications and they haven't worked? That's great. It's a start. It's helpful, right? If you are suffering from depression and anxiety and your medications aren't working, let's do the testing and see how we can improve that. Your point about proactive testing is extremely important to me, especially in that mental health space, because we don't have to wait 6 to 8 weeks now to see if something's going to work or not. There are medications that if you give it to a patient with a certain genetic predisposition, it can be fatal. So over time, it will happen, and we're seeing it change. The FDA and certainly different insurance companies have medications that require testing before you prescribe them. So there's precedent for it. Do I want to see more of it? Absolutely, because we've seen such impressive outcomes on both the health and wellness side and the economic side. I think it's important. But if we're looking to the future of healthcare, I think I'm really excited to see how we're going to continue to meet our patients closer to home. The program that we ran with TRS Kentucky, we sent them kits home. The pharmacists called them at home. These folks who are in areas, both Kentucky, in areas that aren't close to healthcare, that are hundreds of miles maybe from the nearest place to purchase their medications, or there's only one doctor in the area, to give them the accessibility to these tools. So using genetic data together with predictive analytics and improved digital health platforms, I think we're going to remove a lot of those barriers that have been a challenge in U.S. healthcare for a long time. Now, we can also get futuristic and talk about wearables and implantable devices, right? And how those will all connect to these the clinical decision support tools that we've been talking about. But that's also about giving more tools to healthcare professionals to react in real time and have actual information about what their patients are going to. And absolutely, the more we know about genetics and outcomes, we're going to continue to be able to inform these targeted therapies and improve safety and efficacy of those drugs.
So Jeff, we've talked a bit about, how folks could find out more about pharmacogenetic testing by visiting Coriell's website and maybe doing some Google searching on their own. But what if somebody really feels like they could benefit from pharmacogenetic testing today, and how can they find providers? How could they interact with test providers?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we think about this holistically and as from a whole system standpoint, right? If you're in the hospital, ask the hospitalists about it. Ask the doctors and the nurses and the folks that you're dealing with. If you're seeing a primary care physician, absolutely ask them about these kinds of tests. They might have a way to offer that right there in their office. But as you alluded to, there's also companies like Coriell Life Sciences that offer this to individuals, with pharmacists at the center of care and offering the DNA testing as part of a comprehensive medication management program. So going to our website or doing a search online is appropriate. But we can also offer these as larger programs, right? This is a public health problem. So offering a program that's scalable to self-insured companies, retirement systems, whole groups and hospitals that can utilize this information and see both the clinical and the economic impact, definitely what we want to see here in the US and worldwide.
Well, Jeff, thank you once again, both for your time and for joining us today, as well as for the important work that you and Coriell Life Sciences are doing to advance pharmacogenetics as a component of the field of precision medicine. For any listeners that are interested in learning more about pharmacogenetics and precision medicine and the work Coriell has done and it continues to do excellently, please feel free to visit www.coriell.com. I've truly enjoyed being your host today. Thank you again, Jeff, for the time and the valuable work that you and your company are doing. We're excited to see advancements in the field and continue to enable our customers to make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. Until next time, this is Science with a Twist.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Science with a Twist. This show is brought to you by Thermo Fisher Scientific, the world leader in serving science. If you enjoyed this episode, then follow Science with a Twist wherever you get your favorite podcasts.